Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Mark Pettit, and I'm joined by expert analysis master of all that there is F1, Reese Stedman. He is to my that side. There he is. That side there. And we will be chatting about F1 news in the last couple of weeks, or last week at least, and starting with the biggest of them all. We've got car releases galore, we've got news with the FIA president, we've got news regarding Schumacher. We will go through that all today in today's little video. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the biggest piece of news probably is the fact that Red Bull have released their car for the 2023 season, and you can see it over here. And Reese, just talk us through this car. What do you think?
Yes, well, the livery seems identical to last year, which we were all expecting. They've kept the same livery for the past, I think, almost 10 years now. So nothing new on that front. But biggest news coming from that Red Bull launch is their future collaboration with Ford, which has now officially been released. There was a lot of speculation leading up to their release video, but no one had anything set in concrete. But now we finally have that set news that Ford will be joining with Red Bull in 2026 to join in their engine department.
So, when was the last time? Do you by any chance remember when Ford was last in F1? Obviously, that's huge news. Ford coming into it. If you don't have it, it's absolutely fine. But I mean, it's quite interesting. You know, you've got one of the big companies in Ford coming in. There was talk of other companies coming in. There's a lot of new collaborations and new companies coming into F1 again, and Ford being massive. So, I mean, what do you think this could do for Red Bull and Formula One and going forward as well?
Well, I didn't originally know that stat, but I just pulled it up quickly. So Ford was originally in Formula One in 1967.
Sure, a long time ago
A
now.
long time ago, yes, for sure. And then I remember they did, well, they were involved with Sauber back in the day when uh, they were also Red Bull sponsored teams. So they do have some history with Red Bull.
Okay. So, and going forward, as I say, so what does this mean for Red Bull? I mean, are we looking at a Red Bull side that's now basically confirming their future going forward? That's going to be a proper good engine department, given the fact that Ford's going to be involved in that. Is that something that's a risk?
Well, I think there's always a bit of a risk involved when you sign with a new partner, especially when it comes to engine design. But I think Red Bull should be quite safe, if I can say so. They, the biggest speculation is that Ford would be joining with their energy department, mostly to help with the battery tech for Formula One. And Red Bull have already invested so much money into their powertrains department, building a new factory in Milton Keynes to be able to build those power units in house. So I don't think they're going to be outsourcing the engine side of things, but more looking for their electrical engines, battery tech, that type of stuff is what they are partnering with Ford with.
Okay.
We also saw during the launch that all of the promos for Ford was all done in their electric vehicles.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is very interesting in this that they're obviously giving a very good example of that, the fact that they are getting involved electric-wise with Red Bull. Now, moving on just quickly there. So Red Bull's car basically it's the same. Nothing's really changed in terms of the wings, in terms of much. I mean, is there stuff that you
Well,
saw?
we know Red Bull and we know how secretive they can be. So, at least from my analysis, they have not changed anything on that launch car. But I think in testing, we may be thrown with a few surprises here and there.
Yeah, Red Bull always being secretive as they always do, and it will be very interested to see how this car fares in the 2023 season, which should hopefully be more competitive than last season. I think car reveals that we are really looking out for are like the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes, and even McLaren as well. I'd love to see what McLaren do this year in terms of what they change on the car, but we will see those in the coming weeks as all of the car reveals are happening soon, very soon. A couple of them
Yes, within the
happening.
next 2 weeks, we are seeing pretty much all of them being released. So, definitely an exciting time for Formula One fans.
Yeah. But on the flip side of exciting times for Formula One fans, we've also seen some big controversy over the last week and a half, with regards to the FIA president of Mohammed Ben Sulayem. What can you tell me, Reese? What is the big news that we are potentially going to see coming from there?
Well, It's all speculation at the moment, but we could be seeing the FIA president being replaced. Obviously, over the winter break, we've seen the Formula One group and the FIA in quite some heated conversations, as there was some interest in buying the Formula One group by a Saudi conglomerate who originally offered $20 billion to buy the Formula One rights. This is obviously unprecedented for Formula One, with the current owners only buying it for $4.5 billion, around there. So it's a massive increase in its value to $20 billion. And then we saw, which caused most of the outrage, we saw Ben Sulayem tweeting saying that he thought that evaluation was grossly over-evaluated, which obviously upset the owners, the current owners.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's quite a big thing to go and say, especially when you know how much it was sold for prior, and it's not actually all that. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong, it's a 400% increase on the original valuation. However, given the fact that Formula One is so massive and those owners, are still not really looking for that sort of a sale, it is quite insulting. So if we do see Ben Sulayem sacked or replaced or removed, do you have an idea as to who might take over, if that should be an idea, or do you think that will still have to be discussed?
So there's always speculation in Formula One. So at the moment, what seems to be, or who seems to be the top candidate, is the former BAR, British American Racing, and Benetton team principal, David Richards, who is currently working as the Motorsports UK chairman. So it's looking likely that he may get involved and take over from Ben Sulayem if he does get sacked.
And is that a move you'd welcome? Is that something that you're just going to be unfazed about, or?
I mean, at the moment, I think Formula One and the FIA has just had so much instability in terms of regulations, and the FIA, particularly with obviously firing the last director for Formula One, and this past year has been quite tumultuous in terms of just looking for some consistency in the rules. So if you can bring some consistency in, that would be great, honestly, because at the moment it's just a bit all over the place.
100%. Well, moving swiftly along then, we've had two other car reveals up to now. Last week we had obviously the very first car reveal of the lot being Haas. What can you tell me about that Haas car? What did you see? What interested you in that reveal there?
Well, I mean, the car looked great with their new livery, of course. They've got their new title sponsor, MoneyGram, who are bringing them a lot closer to the cost cap, which should allow Haas to be able to be a lot more competitive this year. In terms of the cars, I don't think we are seeing anything that is very close to their full spec cars. So it's not really worth looking at it in detail. Once we get started in testing, I think that's when we're going to be able to give some good analysis on what these cars are actually going to look like.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully we will see. I would like to see a new improved Haas car. As ultimately, as I say, my big thing is this season should hopefully be the season for more competitiveness across the whole board. I'd like to see the top teams challenge a lot more near the top. I'd like to see McLaren involved in the podium spots this season, Mercedes and Ferrari being there more and more often with Red Bull. And at the same time, what you want to see is your smaller teams, the likes of Williams, the likes of Haas, and otherwise an Alfa Romeo. You'd like to see those teams also really try and push in certain aspects, and Haas certainly being one of them. But the other one, as I say, I mentioned earlier, there Williams. Williams today did release their other new car, their new car. And what are your thoughts on the livery and etc.? What's happened there?
Yes. So you can kind of scrap what I said about the cars all looking the same, and you can't really take that for the new year. But Williams seems to have brought a heavily upgraded car already from what we can see in their press releases. Side pods have changed, rear wing has changed, the floor has changed, the nose of the car has changed. So it would be interesting to see if this is their full spec car for 2023, or if this is just still some renders that they have but the car's looking great. They've got some new title sponsors with Gulf, who used to sponsor McLaren, who have now jumped ship across to Williams.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, livery-wise, we don't have to take too much notice of it, but I mean, it still looks amazing, and the different blues, etc., and going into it. I mean, hopefully this will look great on track. I think it'll be a very nice car just to look at in terms of racing around. Of course, alongside the Haas and the Red Bull, which have been released so far. So, we've had three car releases. The Haas, the Red Bull, we didn't really see too many changes. The Williams looks a little bit different, probably the most different of the three released so far. Um, I think surely the ones we're looking forward to the most in terms of seeing what they might change is the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari. I don't think you'll see too many changes in the Ferrari car. I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think with regards to Ferrari as a prediction?
So from what I've been reading mostly, there's not much that could really change in terms of aerodynamics for the Ferrari. I'm sure they'll have some tweaks, but speculation-wise, the biggest change for Ferrari is their engine. Um, there's been a lot of speculation over the winter that they've possibly found another 30 horsepower,
Sure.
which is quite a lot. But I mean, it has me questioning a lot about the engine freeze because I thought it was meant to freeze midway through last year. But I don't know if they've been able to find 30 extra horsepower and it's legal. Why not? Maybe it
I
will
mean,
bring them more into contention.
exactly. I mean, the one thing that we saw in the previous season with regards to Ferrari is where they lacked was the pace on the straights. That's where you saw Red
Mm.
Bull really, really take over. But what the Ferrari always did have last season, even during their tumultuous times, and when they started losing pace against the Red Bulls and really falling behind, they still had the most pace by a long way in corners. And the grip they had and getting this higher speeds through the corners than any other car in the field. So if they can maintain that and improve their straight line speed, it will make that car very, very dangerous. And I'm
For
certainly
sure.
looking forward to that Ferrari. And of course, the Mercedes, we know Mercedes. They'll be proper going into the season, and they'll fix, I'm sure, most of what went wrong last year. And it's whether or not Lewis Hamilton and George Russell can get those cars back into those podium spots on a regular basis. And just lastly, some news also just regarding Formula One in the 2023 season. Of course, we lost a lot of drivers last season, and we've got some new ones this season. But one of those drivers who we lost in terms of a starting position was Mick Schumacher, son of Michael Schumacher. And of course, he was racing for Haas and is subsequently no longer. But he was then announced as reserve driver for the Red Bull Group. Not Red Bull Group, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Mercedes.
Mercedes Group.
Yes.
But the other thing there, Reese, is where else is he now signed?
So, because Mercedes obviously supply engines to so many cars on the grid, it means that their test drivers and their reserve drivers are also at hand for any other teams that may need them. So, he's already had a seat fit for McLaren this year, which is very exciting for us fans to see, as he may be able to do some testing in the McLarens as well as some testing in the Mercedes. So, we should see him quite a lot at the different circuits this year, which would be quite exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's also something a lot of fans will be very grateful for because a lot of people were quite upset that he wasn't given an opportunity in a stronger car. A lot of people saying that they reckon he could actually be a very good racer, but we don't know because he's currently in that Haas car, which is significantly underpowered compared to most of the other cars. And also,
Well,
Haas were not
not
looking
anymore.
to support him too much and in comparison to his teammates, Magnussen, and we saw that a couple of times. But nonetheless, Mick Schumacher will be there on the grid, not necessarily in a starting position, but as a reserve driver for both Mercedes and McLaren at least. So we will certainly see his smiley face around, and I think a lot of fans will be very grateful for that. So,
And of course, it's the same with Daniel Ricciardo for this year, who has been signed by the Red Bull Academy to be their test driver and reserve driver. So he will also be taking on that same type of role in the Red Bull paddock. So he will be doing some testing for Red Bull, as I'm sure he'll be getting involved with the AlphaTauri team if need be.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's also great to see Ricciardo go back to Red Bull, to the team that he obviously raced for a while and whom he loved, and the Red Bull team loved him back. It was a very good relationship, and to see that relationship rejoined is obviously brilliant for F1 and for all fans, of course. And again, we talk about a smiley face. None in the field of F1 has a more smiley face than that of Daniel Ricciardo. So to see the Australian there still alongside everybody and at every race day. I'm sure we'll have a lot of interviews with the likes of Daniel Ricciardo now, a lot more in terms of more of a commentary role, in terms of just giving some insight into it rather than his racing role, and that goes for the likes of Mick Schumacher as well. Reese, any final comments about news we've seen this week?
Nothing else I can think of for now. I think we've covered most of it for this week.
Yeah, as I say, so we will come with you with all the information as it comes during the next couple of weeks. Of course, we're looking forward to a lot of car releases and new liveries, hopefully, maybe for a couple of teams and otherwise. And we will also have a season preview coming up with regards to who's driving for who, what we could expect from each team. And I'm looking forward to that. You've been watching Forever Motorsports with Reese Stedman and myself, Mark Pettit. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back with another video soon. For now, cheerio.